Bernie Sanders did the old, like, oh, there are lobbyists running around scribbling in the margins of the thing, which is sort of like a rhetorical flourish, right? It's a metaphor. They're out there, they're scribbling things in the margins as they do this. That's how poorly planned this bill, and that's how much lobbyists are actually controlling this process. And it's a funny metaphor, except for in this situation, it's not a metaphor. Here's Dick Durbin with a copy of the bill that he received. Now look, unlike the 50 to 100 people I interviewed at that Glenn Beck pre-Tea Party rally in Washington, who were talking about the idea that the health care bill was over 100 pages or 1,000 pages, whatever it was, and that we should have a law. You can't make any legislation more than 3 or 4 pages. I don't care that a piece of legislation is 450 pages long. It's complicated. And I know process arguments hold no water with the American public. So the fact that they just did this bill and they are changing trillions of dollars of our economy it just within like a couple of days, essentially. But this is pretty stunning. The idea that they would put the bill out with chicken scrawl on it that's going to maybe become law depending on who ends up. You got to put it in the Federal Registry, and if they can't even read what's there, somebody's going to choose.
And you stick around until 5 o'clock on a Friday night, and you hand out the work product for all the members of the Senate to take a look at before they vote on changes in the tax code that will affect the people they represent. This is what happens. 479 pages were handed to us. Now, they tell us that some of this has been around for a while, some of it's new. They don't tell us which part is new and which part is old. But lucky for us, on K Street, and there's nothing wrong with lobbyists, but on K Street, where the federal lobbyists live, they are following this really closely, and they have given us basically a cheat sheet, a scorecard, so we can figure out, at least generally speaking, how many changes have been made in the 479 pages since the last time we saw this proposed bill.
Pause it for 1 second.
Now,
I want you to just contemplate that. The lawmakers do not have access to this enough to create their own cheat sheet, right? Theoretically, they should have a staff that is able to look at this stuff. And maybe we just don't, these people don't have enough of a staff. But on top of which, they didn't even have access to it. The people who had access to it were just the lobbyists. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with lobbyists. I just don't think they should be running the country.
I defy any member of the Senate to stand here, take an oath that they have read this and understand what in the world it means to businesses and families and individuals. And if they want to take that oath, and maybe some will, then I refer them to, ladies and gentlemen of the American jury, I refer them to Exhibit A, page 257 out of the 479. Why do I pick this page? Because they didn't have time to type it. They wrote it out in longhand. We're not even teaching cursive in a lot of schools anymore, but someone on the staff knew it enough to try. The problem is they wrote it in cursive along the margin here. It's about subchapter S corporations and how much tax they pay and what they don't pay. I defy anybody to read it because the problem was when they copied it, they chopped off lines. So there aren't full sentences here. They're just kind of like little phrases and words. This is your United States Senate at work. This is what happens when you push through a bill late at night, desperate to pass it, without really stopping to ask yourself, will this make us a stronger nation? Will this help legitimate businesses that want to expand and create jobs? Is this good for American families?
I don't even, how do they put that in the Federal Register? Like, has there ever been like this is stunning.
It just like fills out the bottom, like, you get the point.
Or
them
it's just,
what they want.
That guy or gal whoever it is that's going to transpose this into the Federal Register
They have
is
a lot
the
of
most
discretion.
powerful
A lot
person in
of
the country at this
discretion. It
point.
could
Like,
end up becoming the most progressive tax bill ever written.
right, yes, everything prior to the above and below is null, and then come back around here, work it in.
We expanded chip by 70%. What happened?
It's amazing. It really is amazing. And, you know, I think, well, let's...
I haven't had time to work through it yet, but Eric Levitz, who we've had on the program, just put up a piece in New York Magazine saying that the Senate GOP accidentally killed some of its donors' favorite tax breaks in the Senate bill because they were moving too fast.
They'll move it back in.
Of course.
They'll
That's
have
what
it in
conferences for.
Yes, exactly.
Conferences to complete the hustle on Susan Collins and her sort of like dumb little demands that are already being pushed back on, and then to make sure, like, whoa. Let's make sure that there is not a single stone unturned.
Right.
To
God
rob the
forbid we
American
went
people.
through all this and we're going to be pissing off Sheldon Adelson.
Like, where was the Macau stuff? Hold on. Why everything
Is
else
there
is here?
enough
I
money
see my
to-
children are starving for my kids to get a tax break. I see some good things on the unions not being able to get sick leave. But where is the tax subsidy for Chinese business arrangements?
Am I reading this wrong? I don't see the dropping of the nuclear weapon in the desert in Iran. What?
I told you it wouldn't hurt a fly. It would be a warning.
Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos